Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Really excited for you to join us today as we talk about, lessons learned from a really cool story, a $100 million business exit for Web Deals Direct, and we have Adam Feinberg here who led that company all the way through the acquisition by Perch, where Nate Jackson comes in as well, and we have our own Jason McGee from Teikametrics on the line as well. So really excited for you to be here and hear this story. It's going to be a really great conversation. Before we get started, just a couple housekeeping notes to go through. My name is Andrew Weber. I'm the Director of Insights over here at Teikametrics. And I'm going to be kind of in the background, just like handling questions. And speaking of those, kind of at any point during this conversation, you have a follow-up question for Adam or Nate or Jason, look towards the bottom of your screen or side of your screen, depending on what client you're using. You'll see a little questions box. You can enter the question in there, and we'll get to as many of those as we can kind of towards the end of the call here. Additionally, you will get a recording of this presentation. So if you want to, again, review the conversation, if there's some good nugget you really liked, definitely, we'll be sending that along roughly 24 hours following the end here. So sometime, mid-afternoon on Friday. And so with that, I think we can kind of, get started here, and maybe just by way of introductions, I think it's worth going over who's here. So first off, it's Adam Feinberg, who is the CEO of Web Deals Direct. And in just 5 years, Adam scaled his business to an $80 million revenue business with over 30 brands across categories. And those included kind of leading products such as Space Saver, Flexahole, Zapit. And his portfolio of brands, now hosts over 110,000 reviews, millions of customers served as of now. And again, late May of this year, he sold Web Deals Direct to Perch with Nate here. And really, we'll be talking again about Adam's growth story, his path to exit, a lot of other things. And moving on to Nate Jackson, he's the VP of Acquisitions at Perch. And they're a technology-driven commerce company, really focused on these e-commerce businesses. And what they do is they acquire and really operate those Amazon third-party and D2C brands at scale. And so far, that's led to the acquisitions of over 70 brands. And before he came to Perch, Nate was a senior manager at Bain & Company's private equity group, and he got his MBA from Carnegie Mellon's School of Business. So welcome, Nate and Adam. And then joining us from the Teikametrics side is Jason McGee, our senior director over here. Jason's been in the e-commerce game for a long, long time. Helps brands kind of big and small scale on marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart, and really thrilled for him to be here and for this conversation. So with that, I'll kick it over to you, Jason, and we can kind of get started.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Looks like Andrew Weber's audio is coming through good. Adam, Nate, both of you guys have consulting backgrounds, so I feel like I'm in a good presence here. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Thank you for inviting me, Jason.
Yeah.
Doing great. I don't know what consulting is good for, but I'm glad you think it's excellent. So
yeah, well, given where you gentlemen are now, I think it was a good point for you guys to launch pad. Adam, it's not easy to get you on screen, man. I know you like to fly under the radar some, but again, really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and spend it with us. And you have an awesome story, and I'm really, really excited to jump in. So, Adam, tell us about yourself, man. Before we even get into Web Deals Direct, give us some background on who Adam is. What is the makeup of the man who created such a company?
Okay, well, my professional background is I did about a dozen years doing IT consulting in the telecommunications space, exclusively pretty much for Verizon for 12 years. I married my high school sweetheart, who's been a practicing physician now for about 25 years. I have 2 children. My daughter just started attending NC State. I have a son who is a star soccer player and just started to drive. So that's really exciting for him. The way I became an entrepreneur and got into marketing in general is kind of by accident. There's just way too many doctor offices in the DC area. So when my wife started practicing, she had a hard time getting a job. So she had a lifelong dream of starting her own medical practice and weight loss clinic. So in 2009, without knowing anything about really opening a business, they were giving out money to doctors like candy, thinking they're a sure thing. So they bet on us. one of the regional banks, and we opened up a small medical practice that was only her. And we realized real quickly how competitive it was getting patients into the office. And we needed digital marketing help, and we couldn't afford it. And I used to code. So I shrugged my shoulders and said I would figure it out, and made websites and started running ads on Google and figuring out that free traffic from SEO, from search engine optimization, was kind of like the way to go based on our shoestring budget. So I started doing that, and I got pretty good at it. It was kind of like the heyday of Amazon 6, 7 years ago, where it was really easy to succeed on Google. So I was able, very much to my surprise, to pretty much rank #1 for all the things I attempted. So I just started based on wanting to be an entrepreneur. I decided to take a chance and get into that space. And I started my own search engine optimization company from my house in 2010. Another huge factor for that for me was just like lifestyle. I used to commute into the DC metro area, 2 to 3 hours a day in a car. It was very difficult with a wife who's working 60, 70, 80 hours a week and 2 small children. So I basically became a stay-at-home dad with like my second priority trying to run an SEO business. I was more black hat than white hat, and I didn't realize anything was against Google's rules when we started. And at one point, I had websites that if you went to Google and typed SEO company or SEO agency or SEO services, ranked absolutely #1 in Google. Built it up pretty quickly, did about $2 million after a year in business. That's when I kind of got like hit the first time. Google didn't like what we were doing, bashed a bunch of the websites we were using to promote our customers and de-index them. I lost a lot of clients. We kind of got nervous, and we decided to move to Charlotte, kind of to cut our expenses and to take less risk in life. And I went to Charlotte to try to get into the IT banking industry. No one would hire me based on too senior in telecom experience. So I kind of gave another go again to SEO, and continued to do that.
Were you still black at that time, man? Second time
Yeah.
around?
We became a little bit more smarter, and we became a little bit more smarter about what we were doing to try to do something more sustainable. From like around 2012 through, I still run the SEO agency actually, as like a little side gig, but I ran it seriously through about 2016. One of my clients, Richard Bell from the UK, convinced me to work with him and start and expand our agency into the UK. And he was really successful at doing that. He was better at sales than me, and he did really a great job. Then probably in around 2014 timeframe, Google kind of started to be more difficult on small business marketers, wanting to push you to ads instead of like organic traffic, similar to what's going on with Amazon now. And like the whole business of guaranteeing people great results on Google for small business became a lot more difficult. Rich had a friend who was a chiropractor who joined like a really early mastermind group on Amazon and was making more selling swim caps and swim goggles on Amazon than he was in his chiropractic business, and said he was shutting down his chiropractic business to focus on Amazon. Wow. This really caught our attention in 2014, and we started selling on Amazon as white label as a result talking to him. I gave Rich a really exciting budget of maybe $30,000, and from 2014 until last December, we grew about $30,000 to about $80 million business by good timing, smarts, and a lot of luck.
Adam, that's amazing. We're going to get into Web Deals Direct here in a second, but just to sum it up, obviously you really didn't know what you were doing, and you built an incredible business, and you started to realize, all right, there are rules that I have to play within. How much has your SEO background, how much of that translated into what you do on Amazon? I know we talk a lot about listing quality and, you know, proper keywords. It's an art and a science. How much of that translates into the Amazon world?
I think it translates it to a ton of just coming up with a methodology and testing things to see what works and doesn't work, and then just making a repeatable process. One of my really best friends in the SEO space, Travis and Joe from Upper Echelon Products. If you think what we did is great and not repeatable, they basically started selling on Amazon 6 months after us, and their store today is about the same size as ours. So pretty much the same formula. So we've been working together as like pair masterminds for 6 years and basically had very similar sized business results following pretty much the same repeatable strategies, and then we'd share them with each other. Rich and I and Joe and Travis were kind of like a healthy competition, but like also like working together to try to figure
I
out
got
how to succeed on Amazon.
That's awesome. And Nate, I know we're gonna get to that later when you probably show some of the listings, but tell us about the story of Web Deals Direct. Just start wherever you want to, but yeah, let's talk about the products, what you were trying to do. Give us a little bit of history on Web Deals Direct itself.
Sure. Well, we basically, first of all, we were chicken to sell in the US. Rich's friend Aaron told us how much inventory and how much money we needed to order in the US. And he said, if you want to start small, if you want to be safe, you want less competition, start in the UK and Europe. So I don't know anybody besides us who started selling in the UK and Europe, but we did. And then, like, we thought small. We basically, Aaron said, you can make like $10 on a product and sell 12 of them a day, and you'll have some ad spend and some returns, and then you'll make $100. So that's $3,000 a month. And if you have 10 of those, you're doing pretty well. So that was our strategy, honestly, just to find products that, like at the time, we thought you could be like the 10th bestseller and still sell like 10, 15 units a day at a $10 profit. And also the other strategy that we really tried to do is we thought that if we branded everything like highly targeted to try to convert everything the same way we kind of do for like SEO, that it would have a good chance of being successful. Like someone wants to buy a nail lamp from a nail lamp company, they don't want to buy it from some generic Chinese brand, and they'll pay a little bit more for something like Bella Nails than just some horrible sounding store. And so like our Space Saver bags brand was Space Saver, our nail lamp brand was Bella Nails. We first started out with Bluetooth speakers was our very first product. Our brand was Uber Audio, and we were just like trying to establish ourselves as like a legitimate provider of this product instead of some Chinese junk you're buying on Amazon. And we thought really particularly small, as I said, if we could make $300,000 a year and split it and make 150,000 each. Looking back 7 years ago, would have thought that was a fantastic result, considering how little we had to put in it, especially.
So it's not like you had these ideas of a grandiose business at the beginning. You just found a provable, workable model and just said, "Hey, I can actually really scale this." Is that right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, and what we launched the Space Saver brand on Amazon in the UK in 2015 in the summer. I'd like to say it went immediately to number one, but I think we immediately went to about like number four. And we moved the brand to the US in the fall, which was one of our first efforts in the US. If people are newer to Amazon, you know how hard it is to get initial reviews. Back in the day, you used to be able to give away products within terms of service to like 1,000 people on review giveaway networks, and you get like an 80% review rate. So in the middle of October of 2015, we gave away about 1,000 Space Saver bags, which was probably like, including the bags and the cost, like a $10,000 promotion. And at the end of a $10,000 promotion, we basically were like the number one seller within a week, with a listing that made $1,000 a day, which was just like unbelievably so shocking to me. But that's
Wow.
basically we scaled our entire business model around the success of the Space Saver brand, and like we reinvested it. We got really excited about product giveaways in 2015. We had no idea about assessing volumes of how much we should order. We were typically ordering like 1,000 units to start in the UK and Europe, and so we ordered like 2,000, thinking we were going big time in the US, and that was all we could afford. we ordered about 10 different products and like 10 different niches. We didn't really attack a niche. We kind of used Jungle Scout to identify products where we thought we could get our 10 sales for $10 or better. And by like 6 weeks into it, we were making $3,000 profit a day. 6 weeks into selling in the US and Amazon. It's like absolutely unbelievable. Wasn't possible except for product giveaways, and the competition level was just so much less. And I think we just did a really good job with product photography, branding, and design. But we had no idea how to manage inventory. And I'm embarrassed to say that, like, by the time we got to December 22nd, selling for like 6 or 7 weeks, we were out of inventory of every single SKU in the US.
Oh my goodness. I would say amongst problems, that's a good one to have when you're selling so much. But there's a lot to unpack there. And Nate, I want your opinion on this too. I mean, I've been in the Amazon and e-commerce selling world probably the last 9 years or so. When, oh, looks like we may have just lost Nate. But Adam, something that was interesting is I remember when I first got started, there was a lot of reselling actual brands. And then a few years later, this whole idea of like what white label or private label. But it looks like you took the focus on creating a true brand to heart before a lot of other people really understood the power of that. Can you explain a little bit more about why you thought that was so important instead of selling a Bose speaker or another Bluetooth, that you wanted to create your own brand and do that?
Well, we were concerned about if we were going to wholesale someone else's stuff, that you wouldn't necessarily get the buy box, and that you couldn't really control the pricing and the margin the way you wanted to. And we decided, instead of just having, there's a lot of mega sellers and they have like one brand for every single thing. But we just thought that we just made a list of things we thought would impact conversions. And we
Yeah.
just thought having a very targeted, super targeted brand would help us convert. Later, when we got into it, like about 3 years in Amazon, we realized it was problematic, as like brand registry and trademarks and all that stuff became more of a factor in what we were doing. We started like taking a step up from our brands. Like Grill Man's a great brand for grill covers and maybe grill tools, but it's not a great outdoor brand if you want to sell like patio covers. So we started coming up with brands that were like, we wanted a good home brand. So Signature Living could be like everything home related. And we wanted like a good outdoor brand. So we trademarked Signature Garden. And I think that's a strategy that makes more sense in 2021 than like what we did, where we had a brand that was just for basically like Zap It is only for bug zappers.
Yeah, it's a little bit unconventional with, I think a lot of people, had a trademark and they kind of said, I'm going to go source some good products and I'm going to see what sticks. And so you do have like, there are good brands that we've bought that do not have the sort of cohesive brand theme that Adam and Rich's brands do. But yeah, when in doubt, like having that cohesive theme is definitely a stronger and preferable thing. But I do think that there are some categories where that branding resonates and matters more, anything where there's a premium aspect to it. Whereas there are some just like pure utility-based purchases where, someone's buying a plastic fork and they probably don't even notice like what the trade name is and, maybe what other products the seller is selling.
Well, these are our four brands that account for 70 out of the 80 million. Space Saver, which is a vacuum storage bag brand. Zap It, which is a bug zapper brand. Grill Man, which is a grilling products brand. And Flexi Hose, which is like a hose and hose accessories brand. And not only were those like our biggest, most successful brands, but they're all brands where eventually, when we got like thousands and thousands of reviews, we were able to charge a premium versus our competitors in it. Some of our smaller brands we have, they're like good. They're $1 million, $2 million brands. They probably make 20% margin, gross margin, but they're not able to they don't have like any pricing power in the market versus anybody else's widget. Like we sell Pro Dive snorkel sets and we sell them for $29.99, and that's a pretty standard price in the niche. But like Flexi Hose, we sell a 50-foot hose because people trust that brand for $49.99. And a lot of our competitors are less than $25.
So Nate,
And we're selling more than most of them.
I was just going to say that I do think that one of the strengths of the branding and the trade names here is that they're descriptive as well. So somebody might literally be thinking about saving space, and they don't even know what they want yet, but they want to search for a space saver, and then they come across these vacuum sealed plastic bags that they may or may not have, like they were literally thinking of at times a descriptor, and they find the brand, which
Well, yeah, it's definitely a factor. But like if you look at Zap It and Space Saver and look at like reviews that people have written, people will say like they'll think that like Space Saver is the big national brand. They don't even think it's like a white label at home brand.
Yeah.
And the same with Zap It. Zap It is such a strong bug zapper brand that people think that it must be owned by like S.E. Johnson or something like that.
owned by
Nate,
Perch, something like that.
owned by Perch, right? Nate,
Owned by
on
Perch, yeah.
branding, well, think about when somebody goes to sell their business, like number one, you guys have to think about IP and what you own. So like having a brand, like if you think about the stages, like the ideal minimum is you own that brand. So you own the products, you own the IP, you own the map policy, etc. Even if it's a single item brand, that is a lot more valuable from an acquisition perspective than reselling or having a store that sells other people's products. But then if you take that to the next level, which is what Adam did, which is, okay, I want to have a space saver brand. So not only can you have like the space saver packs, anything related to the concept of saving space, you can build complementary products around that. Nate, when you evaluate a business, how much of that goes into your evaluation process?
It's a great question. So you're asking, like, when you think about the brand ethos and kind of how much weight that carries. I think at the core and historically, so purchase context, we started late 2019. The first business that I bought personally, I joined when we had 2 brands, and I purchased our third. It was a single ASIN business, $500,000 of revenue. It was a beautiful little business, and we love it today, but just kind of a really dramatically different scope and scale than what we're doing at this point in 2021 with a business like Adam's, where it's got multiple brands that we need to assess and value, physical operations, global scale, actual employees. But to your question of how do we look at a given brand and think about what we can do with it? I would say that there are, at the baseline, we want to believe that we're buying high quality and stable assets that, that have a strong review moat, that are positioned well in the Amazon ecosystem, that we believe we can take into new geos or channels potentially. I think one of the big opportunities with Adam's business is brick and mortar, which they had fought the good fight against, but you can only do so much as a couple of entrepreneurs, and we're excitedly taking the baton there. But the other thing is expanding on the product portfolio, and I think to your point, Jason, there are some brands where the brand name itself probably doesn't have any halo to our ability to successfully launch products any different than if we had any other name. I do think something like Space Saver, Zap It, FlexiHose for that matter, these are things that if people have been on Amazon long enough, they've probably kind of seen them. And to Adam's point, the merchandising is super premium. And I do think that when you've got that connotation of Space Saver, it kind of enters into the whole home storage brand, and there's home storage world, and we do have other storage products. And so, there's certainly opportunities to do some sort of infill around a brand like these, rather than something that has less brand prestige, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's just like any entrepreneur, even for a business like Perch, making the sort of product launch decisions is a serious one. And we're talking actively with Adam about kind of what that looks like after kind of stepping in and taking over the core operations. But I do, to your question around the premium level of a brand, I do think that carries a bunch of weight in terms of believing that will carry for a successful launch.
Absolutely. And luckily, and I think for good reason, you're seeing that. I mean, the shift's already there. People know the value of having their own brand. Adam, I have a good question for you that I think the audience will really appreciate. So you've had a business, obviously Web Deals Direct, which is, even though it's really not that long ago, 5-6 years ago, it was a different time. So you talked about the reviews and now you can do giveaways. I can say this, we talked about this. You also now, although you've sold this, you also have 2 other brands on Amazon now, right? So talk to us about what did you do before that wouldn't work now? And most importantly, what are you doing now in the state of where Amazon is in 2021? You can talk about reviews, listings, etc. I'd love to know how you're reapproaching building a brand from scratch on Amazon again.
Okay, we're basically launching, I'm basically partners in 2 types of businesses. The first business, we have 3 listings out there. So if people want to go look, I think 2 of them are out of stock today because we underestimated how successful they'd be. The brand is ClearSpace. And it's basically, when we looked at Space Saver, we didn't have enough capital to expand it into like all the storage categories we want. And I don't want to name other stores, but there are a couple stores on Amazon that are big into the storage space that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars outside of vacuum storage bags. We have a do not compete with Perch where we can't sell Space Saver bags, but we can sell in a category that's not Space Saver bags and storage. So that's totally a storage brand. And we've gotten really lucky with the branding, the way you're talking about how Space Saver is a good brand. ClearSpace is a really great brand for plastic storage. And we expected that we would have to sell for a while with no profits, running #1 app position, potentially taking big losses for 6-9 months to establish our brand. And we launched the ASINs in January, February, and we're already making, when our 3 SKUs are in stock, $5,000 profit a day, which is just like unbelievable. So it's another example of where branding is really, really, really important. And obviously, like really good listings, like good videos, good photography, good content, good A+ content, stuff like that.
So Nate, well, I'm gonna jump into this, but do you mind pulling up one of the Space Saver products? But Adam, you said something very key there. We think about this at Teikametrics a lot, which is, hey, where is your product in its life cycle? Where is it a brand new launch, etc.? That helps determine what you need to do and what you should expect. When you're launching a brand new SKU, you cannot expect it to be profitable. You're going to lose money, but that's like getting a rocket off of the launch pad. You got to burn a lot of gas, got to burn a lot of capital to get it into orbit and establish that product market fit. That's huge. So you have to be realistic about, hey, I'm not trying to make a profit on day one. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. I really need to do this properly. But I'd love to talk about what makes up a very good listing on Amazon. And Adam, Nate, maybe you guys can talk through this together about what you're trying to do from a branding perspective as it relates to a product detail page.
Nate, do you want to go, or I can go if you don't want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think premium merchandising and something that on the search engine page just stands out as like, wow, this isn't just another product, is something that's been really effective for, I think, differentiated versus probably the average starting point of a brand in our portfolio, for Space Saver and all of the brands that Web Deals Direct has. I think if you look at particularly when you look at the search page, there's just more pop, more color. These guys were pretty rigorously testing, A/B testing all of their images. Like I remember kind of flipping the angle of a product 15% at some point in sort of our diligence process. We were seeing actual sort of click share changes that seemed to be.
Nate, as you explain, Adam, go for it, please.
Oh, I was just going to say we actually we have a really good designer, and that's like, if you can hire an awesome designer, that's like a super key to succeeding. But in a lot of instances, like we would go into 99 designs and get like a bunch of competing designs. We'd go to PickFu and run like a several hundred person survey, and we'd look at like different conversion rates and test them before we launch the product. And not only like our own product, like which one's the best one, but we would take like our Space Saver bag packaging, and then we would take like Space Bag, which was like the #1 competitor with us at the time, and DI Bags was the #1 white label in 2015, and then like compare which one's better, and then like have people vote on it. And before PickFu existed, or we knew about it, we started using that in like 2017 or so. we used to run like informal surveys with a bunch of different people, like the exact same way, and have a bunch of people compare it and not tell them which one we were going with or which one was our product. And we wouldn't pick it unless it was obviously came in first before we put it on Amazon.
So I love that. And let's explain what you would actually do with a company like PickFu. Adam, do you mind just going through what that process might look like and what the end goal is?
Well, it's a pretty simple thing. It's mostly for Amazon, honestly. So you just have to load up a bunch of main images on your product. You can include the number of reviews on it and the pricing, and then you just tell what people what criteria to vote for, which one would they buy. And you can pick like how many people to run it. Usually like 100 people is enough, and you can run a survey for that for like $150 roughly.
Got it. So you're able to run surveys on copious amounts of images and essentially use actual data to say, hey, based on what we've tested, this is the image that we're going to go with. That's incredible. I think the thing that I love about
and if you use 99 Designs, which I'm also going to plug, for like a couple $1,000 instead of getting like one package design, you get like 30 of them back, and then you can pick like the best 5 like between you and like your internal staff that you think are most likely to work, and then put the 5 on PickFu. That's usually like what we would do.
I
And
love
then
it.
like
And
whoever wins that contest, then like it usually includes the rest of the design for the initial fee that you paid. You're basically getting like a whole bunch of designs for the price of like 1.5. It's great.
that is. And the thing I always talk about listing optimization, if there's anything close to a silver bullet on Amazon or any e-commerce channel, it's having an optimized listing. And there's an art and a science. The science is you need to get recognized in Amazon's algorithm and index properly, but you also need to, you can't just keyword stuff where a human isn't going to want to make that purchase because they see it stuffed. So if you look at the title is incredibly important. Within a title, I believe it's 250 characters, 150 are the most important. Not only do you get your brand name space saver, but it's also no pun intended, a premium search term. Premium or vacuum storage bags, more storage, hand pump for travel. You're getting very good keywords in there, which is not only going to help you rank better organically. When you're on advertising, like an automatic campaign, they're going to be able to pick very good search terms to actually test on your behalf. And then when you move them from an automatic to a manual campaign, you're actually using data to help make that decision, which I love. I also love the fact that you have, Nate, if you just want to scroll over some of the different images, you have good infographics, as you can see here. Within Amazon's TOS, you have a video there as well. But Nate, anything else you want to highlight on this listing, at least what excites you?
No, yeah, I think probably the main thing is just how it pops on. I think the main image is hugely important, obviously, for the consumer selection, and all of the actual keywords and titles are key for the indexing and the searchability. And for me, really, I end up seeing the results in the business performance, and so that's where I see it first. And so when I look at sort of the quality of the listing, it helps explain why I'm seeing such a terrific looking business in terms of business results. And really the purchase goal with, like, in some ways that one of the most disappointing things about buying Adam's business is that he's doing a bunch of things right. And we do want to bring premium merchandising to products where that matters. We do want to overhaul the listings for SEO, really focus on kind of expanding to the full pool of search terms we can target. Increasingly important, especially as CPCs rise. We just need to be super and hyper efficient. But yeah, I think basically when we look at a listing and feel like, hey, that's one that we'd be proud to be popping off the page kind of after our team has worked on something for a month or two post ownership, it usually means that it's a business that's really performing. So
yeah, I just wanted to point something else out over on the listing. If you look, you'll see that there's a small, medium, large, jumbo, and a variety pack in this variation set. And we actually have like about 50 SKUs of Space Saver bags, 2 packs, 3 packs, 4 packs, 5 packs, 6 packs, 8, 10, and then we have like a bunch of different variety packs, and then we even have travel ones, and then we have ones that come with electronic pumps in case you don't want to use a hand pump or your vacuum. And what we discovered really early on, and for like hoses, zappers, and space saver bags, which are our three niches, that you should really be launching a bunch of different SKUs, and it's really not going to cannibalize your other sales. And in some instances, it leads to like not only more market share, but like to things
Owning
where
more
it like
real estate.
increases your with real estate, but also increases your transaction volume. So before someone would just buy a jumbo six pack for like, and we were selling that for like their big items, but now you sell a small pack and someone might put their pillows in it that they weren't going to buy before, or someone might buy a travel pack for their suitcase that they weren't going to buy before because you sell it. And we kind of kept adding SKUs until we would check our overall sales and profitability across the entire niche and see if it's like cannibalizing us like so much that there's like no point of it anymore.
Yep.
And we've gotten for bug zapper rackets and for space saver bags like in the 40 to 50 SKU range for both. And it's giving you like tons of real estate, and especially if your ads convert, you're able to like dominate searches like bug zapper racket or space saver bags, and there might be like 9 ad positions on the page, and you have like 6 or 7 of them.
One thing that
On-
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Adam. Thing that I love is people talk a lot about lifetime value. Obviously, that's important, but I don't think enough people talk about AOV, or your average order value. Because as an example, in like, not to plug take up, but like one thing we look at when we're going to use machine learning around bidding is we're not looking at just the price of a product. We're looking at the average order value. So if we know your AOV is maybe double or 1.5x what the price of one unit is, you actually can afford to strategically bid higher because your AOV justifies that. So I love the fact that how you think about not only from an ads perspective, but also just an overall like market share and share of basket perspective, that you guys actually do focus on AOV as well as the lifetime value.
Yeah, like if you want to look at a specific example, if you scroll down a little bit, you see where it says add other items, like right, scroll up a little bit. Yeah, right, like right there, it says add other items. Yeah, it says you can
Yep.
get like a clear space plastic pantry bag. We on our clear space products, we're promoting Space Saver, and on our Space Saver, we're promoting clear space.
Yep.
So we're getting like increased space of someone who might want to like store some of their stuff in their pantry, and then all of a sudden they're going to want some other storage options. So now they're going to buy like a Space Saver bag or vice versa. And we're doing that for like a lot of our listings. This is a pilot program called Anything in the Buy Box, and we've noticed a lot of lift from doing promotions like that. We also will run like coupons and other ads, like where if you buy like multiple ones, you get like a discount, like within
Yep.
like the same family of products and stuff like that.
So, and if you scroll, and Nate, if you scroll down a little bit, you also not only have that add button right there, you're also running, sponsored display for the Space Saver premium vacuum bags right there. You just own a lot of real estate on that.
Yeah,
15 gear.
we're running sponsored display on like 40 ASINs. So the chances of if you're on somebody else's listing, like seeing our brand like 10 times is high. And that's why people will start to think that Space Saver is like the real brand and these other people are like the white label knockoff brand. And that really helps you on pricing.
Well, one thing is, folks, I see some questions coming in, but feel free to continue to ask more, even strategic. We're going to make sure we have dedicated time for those as well. So keep the questions coming. Adam, Nate, I'd love for you guys to talk about, Adam, what was your ad strategy? Nate, love you for you to piggyback off of that, because we know advertising is, nobody wakes up and says, I just want to advertise. It's all about ACOS. It's about growing your overall presence and leveraging advertising to drive top line sales. Can you talk about the importance of advertising to your business?
Sure. Just to give people an understanding of advertising and how much we spend and the value of it. Our business this year is probably going to do like $85 to $90 million on Amazon, and our ad spend on Amazon is probably going to be $15 million. So that's pretty substantial. We're a big enough advertiser that I've actually had the advertising group with Amazon fly to Charlotte twice in person to see me. So I know we're a
So,
pretty big, important customer. We've run all kinds of different ads. We also run ads off of Amazon, primarily on Google, and we also have an advertising budget, like on editorial sites, often on Amazon. But Amazon advertising as a percentage of our ad spend is probably like 95%.
yeah, so if you think about this, we look at tacos a lot, which is what is your total revenue or expected revenue and how much are you spending on advertising? Your tacos is around 17 to 18%, meaning for every $100 of sales, 17 to $18 is going towards advertising. And I think that's really important for people to know where, well, what is your overall goal? Well, my overall goal is to grow top line sales. If you're selling $85 million, you can't just advertise, 100,000 and expect it to have a material impact on your business. You really need to invest in that growth. Nate, can you touch on that too?
Yeah, and I would say that one thing for everybody listening is that there's no one tacos that is a good target for everyone, because if you're say in an extremely price sensitive category where where your gross margins are a bunch tighter, it's actually really hard to have that high of a tacos and be successful. And so you have to know your market and know what works there. The reality may be in that market that you can try to differentiate from the pack and go up market and be able to price at a premium and spend more on ads in order to be successful. But we've bought very successful businesses that have 2% tacos and very successful businesses that have 17% tacos. And yeah, a lot of it comes down to the nuances of the premiumization in the niche and your positioning relative to competitors. I would say that the trends on CPC, for example, are more challenging for a business that's more heavily reliant on ad spend, and so the sort of the onus of being able to manage it super tightly and squeeze out every bit of inefficient spend and be hyper focused on the highest efficiency and ROI spend is super important when you have such a sort of aggressive ad strategy as we do here. But what I would say, yeah, stepping back, just there's not one size fits all for brands. You got to really think about what is your positioning relative to competitors, and again, sometimes that's 17% tacos is a great target, and other times, where you've got really dominant organic and your margins just don't support a bunch of ad spends, it can just be a different dynamic. And so, worth processing and thinking critically about and testing and learning, right? You might have an assumption that you can only sell a product for $11.99 when you actually run more ads if you run it at $14.99, and that's actually net beneficial. So I'd say don't assume that one size fits all, and also know that you can test and learn and make changes to your business.
Well, and I just want to talk, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, this is, and again, this is Teika branded, but obviously this applies to anybody. I just want to give a way that to visualize what Nate just said. So when folks advertise, yes, you want to optimize your spend, because if you do that, your ads perform well and you have a good ad sales. But what you're really trying to do is every sale you get from advertising, you're putting a coin in the piggy bank of Amazon or Walmart that I deserve to rank better organically. So in a way, unlike Google or off Amazon advertising, the more you advertise, the better you rank organically. But in terms, and that's the thing, is it's not really about your ACoS, is what is the ACoS I can stomach that drives organic sales fast? And to what Nate said and what Adam was saying is you have to start by understanding your profit margin. Doesn't mean like you need to be profitable or not, but you need to know how to advertise a 10% margined item versus a 70% margined item, because it's going to have a different expectations and baselines. But then to your point, Nate, the way we look at this is how do shoppers buy products? Where they're going to look up 78% of search terms are generic. So if you're not focusing on if that's not your biggest bucket, you can be in trouble. But you need to protect your brand, but you also need to go after competitors. You also then need to take into account where is this product in its life cycle. And as you said, Nate, share of voice. Where do you rank organically? How much market do you own? So that's very similar, and that just sort of summarizes what we all said in collectively here. Adam, you were going to say something. Did you want to go back to that, or I had another question for you? If not.
Just go ahead. You can just proceed.
All right. So one thing that I think makes your business very unique, Adam, and is actually how you go about the warehouse component and the logistics component. Can you talk about that a bit, about how you do that?
Sure, we kind of got into that by accident. Most sellers on Amazon start small time. They just have a laptop at home. They're relying on all kinds of third parties to do everything for them and just source from China. And we were doing exactly the same thing. We were using a company called FBA Forward for the first couple of years. And unfortunately, that business got into trouble in 2017 and abruptly closed. And I was really fortunate that my partner, Rich, lives out in California. And he had some family members that were looking for something different to do. And so they wanted to take a punt at opening our own warehouse on doing like our own logistics. And we started out in a 10,000 square foot place. And eventually we went to a 38,000 and then a gigantic 230,000 square foot warehouse like at the end. And it gave us a lot of benefits that really aren't from a cost standpoint, like didn't save us a lot of money versus using like a third party forwarder, but gave us like a lot more flexibility to help us solve problems. Like the biggest thing that, like here's an example, during COVID, we had a huge jump in sales from like 40 to $80 million in a year. And one of the biggest reasons for that was we had a warehouse. It has a fixed cost. It costs 50,000 bucks a month, whether you have it filled or a quarter filled. So given the risk of what happens to you if you run out of stock on Amazon, and you never know what's going to happen and how bad it is and hard it is to recover, we just thought it was always better to keep it filled. So all of a sudden, factories were delivering stuff like 90 days late, like last spring, because they were closed for a long period of time. And we had enough of all of our products that we didn't run into any issues for months.
Well,
even selling at like twice the volume that we thought we were going to sell at.
It's also like just in time. Like even if you have Amazon limitations about how many you can store, if you have them locally in a warehouse, you can also replenish a lot quicker than waiting for it to come overseas. Who was it that you said you were an idiot for having that much inventory on hand at a time?
Nate,
I think I did at that point.
Nate, but we bought $30 million of inventory at like $3,000 a container, and now we get excited and do a dance at $8,000 a container. But for electronic stuff, which is more limited, we paid 23,000.
Yeah,
for a container,
so that's like, yeah,
seven
like
times.
Yeah, 7x cost. And Nate, now you're like, all right, I'm glad the inventory is here.
These are like
really money, but also I'm glad that we're not shipping 50 containers in the next month.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, one of the other like really things that you're able to do with your own logistics staff that you can't easily if you have like a like a third party is, first of all, Space Saver started getting heavily counterfeited in 2018. So we had like $5 million of inventory sitting in our warehouse. They just implemented like the transparency program, and we stuck labels like on 1 million units of our products. There's no way a third party would have did that, but we hired like 20 people and we relabeled everything, prioritizing what was getting counterfeited the worst, and we were able to resolve that problem. Also, no matter how good of a seller you are on Amazon, no matter if you use a third party inspection service, you're always going to run into problems where you need rework a product, something wasn't labeled right, something has an insert they shouldn't have had on it, or you need to shrink wrap something because of performance issue to resolve a new used issue, or you need to remove stock that's too much because you're overstocking something and you're watching your IPI score. Having a warehouse with staff that can do rework, shrink wrap, repackage stuff, shrink wrap machines, rebox it, repolybagging is like super duper valuable. It's so
Yeah,
valuable that like when Matt, who's the COO of Perch, is using like the staff that we have now. We have about 15 staff that we call the labeling team, and using it for all kind of products, and
Yeah.
including some light manufacturing.
Yeah, when we have, like, the hardest thing for us to absorb when we do an acquisition is like ad hoc, unique physical touches that happen stateside versus placing a purchase order. And so rather than having to go and figure out another vendor to do something, we can actually now just use this resource to handle a bunch of the curveballs that come in the form of unique supply chains, which often are differentiated products that are really attractive, other than the fact that you have to figure out how to kit something here in the US. So it's been really, a really valuable.
Yeah, we're for the 2 new businesses that we're starting, we're planning to do our own logistics again, our own warehousing. And Nate can tell you, but I mean, even like gigantic sellers like Perch are having problems where they can't get commitments from third parties for warehouse space, and they literally just don't have anywhere to send anything, especially because Amazon is so full now. And the more they're limiting what you can send to Amazon, the more warehouse space that you have to have.
Oops,
I can't hear them.
I can't hear you, Jason. I still can't hear you. I was going to suggest, I know that we're coming up on time, and Weber, I don't know if your microphone is working, but I know that there was some Q&A. I'm eager to hear what people are curious
sure.
about.
Sure. So we did have a few questions, so yeah, we can get into it. So this is a question from Akil. I know when you were showing, some of the listings you had, the add other items, kind of those companion products. Is that an option? There are definitely a few people that are curious about that. How did you implement that? Is that a program that you had access to through Amazon? I guess there's some curiosity about kind of those companion products.
Yeah, that's not an official Amazon program. It's a pilot program. We've participated in the SaaS Core program for the last 4 years, and they often have like pilot programs like that they eventually roll out and usually get first access to them. So I'm imagining that this will probably be available to like all Amazon sellers in the next 6 months. But like we've piloted everything from like when Amazon rolled out shipping your inventory to multiple fulfillment centers to on the first 1P Vine, we were like the original testers. I've tested a different version of the deal tool that's not available to other people yet. So if you get to join a program like that, and you're a big seller and you're cooperative to Amazon, you typically get access to some pretty neat tools, including this that other people don't have. And we've been able to document like a big increase on some of our products from like listing some supplemental products. For example, we sell a lot of bug zapper rackets, and we started selling indoor bug zappers, and we moved from like a BSR of like 5,000 in patio to 1,000 once we listed it on the #1 best-selling product in the category. So someone was buying a bug zapper racket that has a BSR of like 17 in patio, which is usually about where we're hovering right now. And then they go, oh, I could probably use an indoor bug zapper also. And that like added like 40, 50 sales a day.
And Adam, can you guys hear me now, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Adam, one question that's on this too. Paul asked, are you doing FBM or FBA?
Our sales are 99% FBA, but FBM is another critical component of a warehouse. Like we ran into a lot of issues in fourth quarter where we weren't really prepared when they were really limiting our like the stuff with all the stock limits that existed. Instead of like totally going out of stock, a lot like in the fourth quarter last year, we ran like a hybrid model where we'd maybe be in stock like 70% of the time for FBA and then have an FBA listing like as a secondary listing. We launched a Christmas storage bag on Amazon in December of last year, and it had no history because it's a seasonal product. and we were able to sell about $1 million of units, like all FBM. And I think it's a tremendously hot product after Christmas. And we shipped out 5,000 Christmas torch bags in one weekend after Christmas. So we have some
So
pretty good capabilities in that with our warehouse, with like the 15 or so staff that we have in there.
whether you're a seller who's been around a very long time and you have some new SKUs that are limited, or you're a newer seller, the model of being able to back into FBM, if you stock out at FBA, is incredible, because you do not want to stock out. You don't want a listing going dark. Nate, I know you know how we talked about this, it just crushes BSR. But I mean, anything you want to add to that before we get to some more questions?
I mean, I think the challenges that the peak needs for everyone's FBM are around the same time quite often. In Q4 is kind of the prime time, but yeah, I think we haven't seen a ton of people that are blissfully contented with a third party that's doing it, and so having your hands on the wheel is super valuable. As you're saying.
What I've actually seen from it, probably like 90% of the people shopping on Amazon or Amazon Prime, but some people are still getting charged for shipping. So a lot of customers, like, enough, if you're selling like 300 units or something and you have an FBM option, like 15, 20 units might be someone picking the FBM that comes with free shipping instead of buying an FBA and having to pay $7 for it to be shipped. Because we're offering free shipping with the FBM and they don't get it because they don't have Prime.
I love it. Waver, do you want to pick up some more questions for us?
Yeah, sure. So another one we saw, this was, and maybe this is one, Jason, you can chime in on too, but it's from Farouk. It says we're having trouble kind of scaling on Amazon. And really, he's hitting a limit where they're spending roughly 10K a month limit per SKU. And then kind of when they raise bids for one keyword, they end up kind of losing money, or they rank. And if they focus their budget elsewhere, they're kind of seeing de-ranking. I guess, Adam, and maybe this was especially with a kind of complex product portfolio, keeping the focus that you're not, let's say, losing rank kind of as you scale up. I guess, kind of, how did you conceptualize that? And maybe Jason kind of talking more at a high level.
Let's see the best way to answer this. I think like the seller's running into a challenge of, which I see with a lot of other challengers, is there's basically either two issues if he's losing money on ads. Either it's a temporary situation and he's eventually going to get enough organic positioning and reviews, the product's going to do well, or even if he gets a whole bunch of reviews and gets better positioning, he's not going to do well because the product just costs too much in ads. And a problem with a lot of sellers is when they budget their products to launch, they don't have enough ad budget put aside. So you might launch like a product that costs like $70,000 of inventory, and you might like initially need to have like $30,000-$40,000 set aside to like sell it like with no profit, and sell it like running ads high to get like a bunch of sales, so and hopefully good conversion rates, so Amazon rewards you with high organic ranks. And then I've just seen people that they just start selling and they can't afford to lose money like at the beginning, and then they close. I've seen a couple of my friends, like neighbors, that I wish I didn't get on the Amazon, and they had the problem where they didn't have any capital to do the marketing, continue to even give their product a chance.
The one thing I'll add to that too, Adam, like you nailed it. Along that is, as we all mentioned, having good reviews and good social proof and a good listing is the foundation. But it does take money to advertise. But at the same time, too, it's how are you doing it? Like, where are you spending money? Is it on every product you have? Is it on the seller, specifically the ones you want to be moving? Where is your spend going? Is it going into your own branded terms, which you might not even be a recognized brand? Are you going too aggressively at competitors with a low budget? Where are you spending that money? If you want to talk to me offline, I'm happy to answer that question for you. Just reach out to me directly. But Nate, with this deal in general, it was pretty complex, man. I think in the news it said open to close, from LOI to actually closing, it was around 100 days. And this is a huge undertaking. It's not a typical deal, obviously, with a warehouse. What should most sellers expect? How just walk through that process as folks look to, potentially sell their business, do integrations, et cetera.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, Adam's business is a bit unique in the scale. There's 5 million Amazon sellers. There's probably only 500 that are of a sort of order of magnitude of size and complexity as this one. And so yes, this deal took 100 days, and I feel like we needed at least 99 of them to sort of be ready enough to the plate to have everything lined up that we would need to do. For somebody that's got a $2 to $5 million business, or anything that's got 10 SKUs, one supplier, that's the sort of deal where you'd see on a Perch website or something. We could close in 30 days because diligence is super simple. We have to just talk to and understand one supplier. The contract just has far fewer things related to employees, and you might have one trademark instead of 49 trademarks that we have to go and make sure that we make sense of. And so I would say, generally the time that's associated with the time and complexity of a transaction, it scales with the size and complexity of your business. At the lower end, again, it's going to be about a month. But anytime you get into physical operations where there's real people, real employees that we need to think about thoughtful communication plans with, third parties that are super important, like a landlord of a major commercial or industrial space. All that's the stuff that I think led to a much more prolonged transaction process. And I think when we kicked off in our very first diligence kickoff after we signed the LOI, Adam, I said, this process is going to take about 3 months. I think 10% of it's going to feel like diligence and like where we're deciding, do we want this thing? And 90% is going to be preparation for the integration. And that was true there. I think in the normal deals, it's more like 30-70. That a big part of what it takes to get from signing to closing a deal for anyone is preparing for that supplier transition, preparing for the Amazon account transition, and kind of making sure that we're lined up to run. But yeah, it was a fun one, and we learned some things that we've been able to apply in new situations. Like we learned that our payroll system wasn't set up for hourly employees, and we had to go figure that out with Adam's at that closing of Adam's transaction. All sorts of things that you just don't get to until you get to. And so I think it was a big thing for all of us, and a big growing opportunity for me personally.
Jason, do you mind if I plug Perch and talk about like my different efforts to try to, originally we didn't try to sell, we tried to raise capital with private equity and stay involved in the business. In 2018, I was attending the Prosper show with my partner Rich, and we met another seller at a big seller happy hour, and he basically had the dream scenario. He was about the same size seller as us at the time, and he sold like 55% of his supplement business, got $25 million, solved all his money problems, because even when you have such a huge store like we have, the way you have it is you're reinvesting everything. And then as you're growing, if you're lucky enough to grow so fast, you're struggling for capital. And now he said, like where he was really struggling to grow his product line and expand, now he had access to like all this bank capital that he can have access to. So that's kind of like the dream of what we wanted. We hired an investment banker in 2018 with kind of like the goal of selling like 51% of it and sticking around. I really believe in the model, and there's lots of growth. We tried to sell to private equity. We did like an entire round of it, and they really weren't ready for Amazon businesses in 2019. And we got like a lot of cold feet and financing that didn't want to finance an Amazon deal at the time. That was like a $50 million deal, like half the size, and it didn't close. And we tried it again. And the second time, like in 2021, we had more interest from private equity as like people like Perch and, Thrasio validated the model more. But what's really exciting about dealing with Perch and why we sold to them is that they really understood Amazon businesses, and they were really committed to doing whatever it took to close a transaction with confidence in a fast time frame. We would start talking with private equity guys, and you wouldn't know if it's going to close
They
like in
wouldn't get
9
it.
months.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know if it's going to close in 9 months, or they're taking 7 calls with you and it's never going to close. And then I gave Nate all kinds of other challenges. I was like, you have 20 employees on payroll. You need to keep them all. We pay for everyone's healthcare 100%. You have to, if you don't match that, they're going to be furious at you. We have a 230,000 square foot building, which I thought was strategic, but it still has $500,000 of additional work it needs before we close for like build out and lighting and fans and all kinds of stuff. And they were willing to like commit half the cost for finishing like the build out of the building. And like every single thing that they said that they were going to do, like they delivered on 100%, like throughout like the entire process. And we just had super duper confidence in them, and it closed on time. And even in an aggregator space where you think all these people are really pushing to close deals, I have some friends that got a quote unquote better deal from a smaller aggregator that's done like 5 deals, and you might get a Perch. And then they come to me like 2 months into the due diligence and they said the deal didn't close. I had like 5 friends that the deal didn't close.
Well,
So if you're going to
your first deal didn't close, Adam. It worked out great for you.
yeah.
If you want a deal to close, and if you're being honest with like Nate's team at the beginning of the LOI process, and there's nothing shocking for them to discover like midway through, it's going to close, in my opinion. I think their close rate, when Nate told me, is like in the 90-something percent. And when it doesn't close, there's a reason. And I think that's really, really, really important.
Well, Nate, like I can't say enough about you all. You guys have been a great partner. Adam, it's been really good getting to know you. We could talk forever about this. Folks, I know you had questions still. We'll try and get back to you guys and make the intros to Perch, etc. I do have to wrap this up, but guys, thank you so much. What an awesome conversation. This is Adam, really good to know. Really good to know you personally, your story. Nate, good to see you guys just doing good business. So I want to say thank you everybody for coming in and tuning in. The recording will be sent out to everybody, and we'll try and answer all your questions via email.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Adam.